Aloha and welcome back to Healthy Living. I'm here at Custom Fitness in Hagatna with co-owner Ryan Claros. He's going to tell us about GIM training. He's actually training me for this upcoming half marathon on April 10th. So Ryan, can you tell me a little bit about my game plan?
Sure. Havade, Asa. So basically what we've tried to do is we have about 8 weeks to go. And I think that for you, the biggest thing was to try to just kind of develop some strength. And what we've done is we then kind of broke it down to movement patterns that we can then kind of rely heavily on, such as the squat and the hinge movements, and a little bit of the loaded carries. So Isa's been coming in at 5:30 in the morning, if you could believe it, almost for the past 2 weeks. And we've started on just basic foundational movements. And then from there, we've kind of started off with a little bit of a squat program. And then we've kind of moved on to a little bit more interval training. The goal of the program is by week 6, we want to start moving on to a little bit more running. So we've taken off the volume in terms of the running aspect and more focus on the strength. Isa's goal is to break 2 hours during the half marathon. And I think that in conversations with her, we did an analysis and just tried to describe, okay, what is your biggest weakness? And I think it's not necessarily the endurance portion, but it's more of towards the end, it's the mental capacity to finish off, and then obviously just to finish off stronger. So that's kind of our game plan moving in. About 2 weeks prior to that, we'll kind of ramp up the running and then kind of be able to peak by the time the GIM hits.
All right, so I have to say I've actually run a few half marathons, so this is going to be my 4th, and it's my 2nd GIM. And my training plan has really changed since my very first half marathon, and it's made a really big difference. I've seen a lot of differences. So my very first half marathon, all I did was run. I always skipped cross training. I didn't do any weightlifting, and it was a really tough half marathon. Coming up to the last one I did, I incorporated a lot of yoga, so that was the first time I really did any strength training at all aside from running. And that was a really big difference. And so I came really close to sub 2. I was really proud of my time. I was at 2:04. But, just breaking those last few minutes is so hard. Like just, getting the speed. Because the distance, you can get there mentally. You can get there just running. But I think the difference I've been seeing with this is trying to get the speed there. So like with the interval trainings, instead of a short run where I would do a 4-mile run on a weekday, instead I'll do 1 mile as fast as I can, and then I'll have a 3-minute break in between. Okay, so is that do you think that's going to really improve my speed?
Well, when you talk about running, there's only 2 things that can change is, the running pace and then obviously the stride length. So stride length is, inherently just within how you run, and then obviously just the amount of strides that you can take within the amount of time. And so again, what we're trying to do is you have a foundation in terms of you can last for a very, very long time, but the speed endurance is just not quite there. So what we've tried to do is incorporate a little bit more high intensity, fast tempo pace. So what Isa's talking about is we have her running about 90% at roughly around a mile, and then we have her rest about 2 to 3 minutes, and then have her do it again. And the idea is then to kind of have that high tempo pace for 4 straight miles, for 4 continuous miles towards the end of our training. So by the end of our training cycle, so it's going to pay off eventually.
So intervals, even though I'm taking these minutes breaks in between it, does that really have a negative effect at all, or?
Remember, so at the end of the day, it's what we're talking about is volume over time. And so a lot of times people spend, I ran 6 miles this time and I ran 8 miles that, but they're running at a pace that's probably maybe 60, maybe 70%. At the end of the day, you're running at 90% 4 miles, and then it will make you roughly get to about 90% at roughly about a 12, in terms of a distance. So we'll get you to be about 10, running 90% at 10 miles. So overall, the longevity of it is that you're going to be able to go faster with the same amount of distance. So that's kind of the goal.
Okay, so this is where the big shift has been since my first half marathon. At first, it was all running. Now, I train roughly 5 days a week, but 3 of those days are here in the gym, and only 2 days are out running. So it's a big difference. And so
even with the days in the gym, take it with this with a grain of salt. Not all people can, keep up with Isa's pace in terms of her endurance, because she has a really, really good foundational base, and that's why we kind of structured her training. Now, the idea is that when she runs outside of here, but also we integrate running intervals into her metabolic conditioning. So, an example today, she did every minute for 3 minutes. She did 200 meters sprints, followed by 10 burpees, and she kept that pace for about about 8 rounds, about 24 minutes. So she got in roughly about a mile with about 80 burpees. So not bad. Not bad for a good start. Not bad for a start.
That was hard. But so, you know, but the GIM is really about races for all runners. So there's a marathon, there's a half marathon, 5K, 10K. So for people who are training maybe for the 5K or they want to run their first 10K, what advice do you have for some strength and conditioning exercises that they can do on their own?
You know, with that being said, I think the most important part is not only the strength and conditioning part, but also the warm-up portion to it. So a lot of people, you know, once they think that running is the biggest key, and I think that it's prior to running to prepare to run. So like an example of doing a dynamic warm-up, something that we do around here, and also just being able to progress. A lot of times people have this short amount of time that they're going to try to get all this running in, and if they don't know, they should probably go seek some advice from someone who knows what they're doing.
Okay, so the warm-ups we usually do here, I notice I usually do around 5 minutes on either the row machine or cycling. What about warming down after a workout? Is that important also?
100%. I think that's another part that's neglected. So especially for the cool down aspect. So the warm up aspect, you know, you want to increase your heart rate, respiratory rate, sweat rate, those kind of things, your body's going. And as we begin to cool down, we want to be able to, again, set your body up for the next running cycle or next training cycle. So the ability for you to sit down and create some more extensibility within the soft tissues, as well as making sure that your joints feel right afterwards. A lot of times, you know, you're kind of hyped from all this running, the endorphins are going through your body, and then it's not, you know, 2 hours later you're like really sore. So a thing that you can also do to help yourself is kind of do some static stretching afterwards, get some water in while you cool down. So it not only cools your body down, but also your nervous system as well.
You know, another thing that I noticed with the training plan that you made for me is that it includes rest days, and sometimes I have a problem with this. I get kind of excited and I want to do something on a rest day, you know, maybe some cardio at the gym, but you told me just cool down and stay home. Why is a rest day so important for a runner?
Well, the rest days, so, you know, there is such thing as an active recovery day, but our sessions are so high intense that you don't need anything out of it. So rest days are very important just because we have a tendency to people kind of judge their training based upon how they feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times people will then kind of have a sense of overtraining. And that's where where a mandatory rest day will help. An example, our rest days are Tuesdays and Sundays, mandatory those days. So it also allows you to Sundays allow you to prepare for the week in terms of mentally prepare and physically prepare.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ryan. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. And we'll catch up with Ryan and our training later on before GIM. Don't forget, we also have a social media promo. If you post your pictures on Instagram with your training, you can hashtag GIM training, and we announce the winner every week. So here's this week's GIM social promo winner.
Your community calendar is brought to you by Taco Bell. Whether it's your first meal or your fourth meal, we've got you covered. Taco Bell, live Más.